Chapter 71. Bye 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 bye. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translated by me, edited by Trepetro. Chang Yu's rig was made up of parts that were all top of the line. Not only was the video in HD, there was also no need for buffering. He picked up a pair of scissors, and did a cutting motion in front of the camera. Ha ha ha, time to see what's really brewing under here. Chang Yu happily said as he went to cut open the package. That was a very time-wasting step, but all the authors were still happily enjoying the show, as Chang Yu was going to make a fool of himself soon. When Chang Yu finally removed all the packaging, close to 5 minutes had passed and he was already huffing and puffing. Then, every author had their eyes popped out, because what appeared in front of the camera was a square-shaped, extremely big box-like kind of thing. All the authors almost all fell to the floor laughing. How was this a freaking chair? It was more like a super big box. Arrogant impermanence. 50,000 for a box, worth. Number 1 white under the heavens. Ha ha ha, I need to tell this to all my readers. Tortoises aren't turtles. Hurry up and return it, even if it's turned sideways, it still doesn't even come close to a chair. Chang Yu totally didn't pay them any attention, as he was still bewildered. Because as to the product in front of him, Chang Yu was clearer than anyone else, about every part of it. That wasn't a box. Of course it also didn't look like a chair, it still seemed to have its futuristic looks, but he still didn't know what it was. Carefully finding the power cable, Chang Yu connected the power, with a glass half full kind of attitude, and pressed the start button on that 5-foot touch display. Kaka kaka, a burst of mechanical sounds burst through, and transferred through the internet into every author's ears. Under every author's shocked looks, what they believed to be a box, slowly stood up, and just like a Transformers, the leather-covered joints, very futuristically and very shockingly, began to slowly move. When the pictures were transmitted over the internet in front of the authors, even if they were very imaginative, they still weren't able to guess such a transformer-like appearance. The silvery white metal base, mixed together not just the silvery whites, but also the grayish metal color of the fully mechanical arm. It was completely covered in leather, but just the unpacking sequence of the chair alone, had everyone understand what kind of complex monster was hidden underneath. When the complex machine finished unpacking itself, a simple and crude, yet fully mechanical chair, that was just like the one from the picture, appeared in front of everyone. Everyone was shocked beyond belief. This single chair had shattered everything they knew about ergonomic chairs. Flower blade crown prince. Holy shit, why does it feel like it's a transformer? Headwind. No wonder it's called the mechanical engineered chair. I'm the store owner. Why is reality stranger than fiction? I swore that it was a box. The Hepburn downstairs. Hurry up and take a seat. I saw from the store intro that this chair has tens of thousands of functionalities. Full metal ammunition. Yes, hurry up and try it. Chang Yu circled around the chair for a closer inspection, confirmed that it wouldn't move anymore, and slowly took a step forward and saw down on it. How to put it? Chang Yu tried to describe to everyone how he felt. Very comfortable to sit in, the back is definitely tall enough, at least taller than my previous one. It does provide good support for my head and neck though. Chang Yu put both of his hands onto the armrests and tested how secure they were. These armrests were also well designed. My old chair's armrests tend to sway all the time, it's just that this chair's armrest is a bit high. Having finished speaking, Chang Yu tried using his hands, tried to adjust it, but found that it was much stronger than he thought, and he was unable to budge it at all. The waist part isn't well adjusted, the bend is too small as it can't fully support the waist. But the introduction said I can adjust this as I like. Chang Yu tried looking for adjustments with the LCD controllers. The number of authors viewing kept on increasing, but no one said anything at the time. They were all patiently waiting for Chang Yu to fully introduce the chair. Opening up the LCD controls, for option popped up. Preset modes, choose functionality, personal adjustments, VR mode. Chang Yu randomly selected the personal adjustments, and as a result, the screen suddenly changed to be like a calculator, all numbers and symbols. The only things he could understand were only the several Chinese characters mixed in. This is an industrial control monitor, most computer-guided lathes have these. I see the controls are in number control mode. Chang Yu, point it towards the camera, and give me some time to examine how it works. Computer-guided lathing software. Many authors had their interests piqued. Could these chairs, just like those computer-guided lathes, be programmed? What strong industrial ties? Chang Yu also had his interests piqued and faced the controller towards the camera. Wow, this is simple. Chang Yu, you see those red 12,345s yet? I believe those represent the 5 axles in the chair. 1 and 5s are probably the armrests, and 234 are the chair back. Naval Orange, who obviously did research into the industrial sector, continued to explain. ABCDE probably represent the movable joints in each axle. Go select 1A and try adjusting it. Chang Yu acknowledged, and pressed the up arrow next to 1A. Then the strangest thing happened, the tip of the right armrest actually slowly rose up. Pressing the down arrow, the armrest went down. Pressing the left-right arrows, it turned left and right. Every joint could be adjusted like this, even the seat underneath could be adjusted as well. The control system seemed complex, but with the mechanical engineered chair having precise separated coverings of the joints with leather, as long as it matched with the positions on the system, you could easily adjust to your favorite position. 5 minutes later, the chair had been adjusted into the most comfortable position, and was saved. Chang Yu sat in the chair and enjoyed it extremely. He even selected the swinging option under functionalities, and satisfyingly looked at the camera while swinging back and forth. The moving supporting arm under the mechanical engineered chair comforted Chang Yu and also attracted the attention of every author who was watching. Within their eyes were envy, shock, and desire. To be completely honest, the amount of time these authors sat in their chairs was much longer than the amount of time they spent sleeping. Their need for comfortable ergonomic chairs was leaps and bounds above that of finding a lifelong partner. Ha 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 ha. Chang Yu right now was laughing as if he was possessed, far more delighted than even finding an alien, as he happily played with the chair like a 5-year-old. He controlled the 2 armrests to close in and act as like a seat belt, then had the chair's supporting arms spin him right round, right round. Ed. You spin me right round, baby, right round like a record, baby, right round. He played like that for a bit, then selected the massage option. Suddenly, many gray options appeared on the control system. Those were probably unsupported message options right now. But that still didn't stop Chang Yu from turning on the massages at the waist and the neck. Yet after having them turned on, he was just like having eaten a divine fruit, as he laid there on the chair letting up a completely satisfied expression that was even better than getting some you-know-what. On the other side of the internet, all the authors seemed to have all been turned. Their eyes were all bloodshot, letting up piercing stares, and on the verge of going berserk. If it wasn't for the internet in the way, those people would definitely pull Chang Yu off the chair and experience it for themselves. Chen Ji Tang Hongdo. Chang Yu, hurry up and tell us how it feels. Ha ha ha. Chang Yu laughed as he couldn't make a proper sentence. Ha ha ha, this is just too amazing, I can't describe it at all. Imagine walking in the desert, barefoot and no water. Then you suddenly find an already air-conditioned RV, with the fridge completely stocked with already chilled juice, and full foot massage services. How would you guys feel under those conditions? Ha ha ha, and that's exactly how I feel right now. It's to the point where I don't even want to speak anymore. I've decided, tonight, I'm spending the whole night on the chair. The chat group had already descended into the depths of hell. Every topic in the chat was about the mechanical engineered chair. Some who were familiar with the mechanisms were beyond being delighted. They said it was a miracle, that the factory was definitely getting some extreme mechanical pointers from some mysterious source, and was also in possession of some mechanical black tech, otherwise there was no way they would be able to make such a revolutionary, decades ahead of its time chair. The mechanical engineered chair's owner, Changyu, also became the target of everyone's jealousy. 8-month eagle. Oh my god. Look at the control system. It freaking has an option for when you do that. Ah. They get over 9,000 of my support. I'm the store owner. Holy. Domestic products have already reached such heights, yet I'm still daydreaming of buying some American-made ergonomic chair. The Hepburn downstairs. I also feel like I should throw out my American product. The extreme gap here is just like the gap between a handheld flashlight and a high-powered laser emitter. Full Metal Ammunition didn't say anything, but rather sent a picture. That was the picture of a successful payment, and the product being bought was actually the mechanical engineered chair that Chang Yu was showing off. Having sent the picture, Full Metal Ammunition followed with a row of smiles. Low reviews for my new book, so I had to spend my days sitting in front of the computer bitterly seeking enlightenment, to the point where my old waste problems were acting up again. But Full Metal Ammunition sent another pictures to the group, followed by a sly emoji. 2 minutes later, 8-month eagle first fired off a picture of several people discussing the chair was a lie, then a picture of a successful purchase and a row of sly smiles. The Hepburn downstairs, I'm the store owner, Flower Blade Crown Prince, 32, Naval Orange, Chen Ji Tang Hongdo, Arrogant Impermanence, Huang Fuji, Xia Fei Shuangjia. Every single one of them also sent their receipts to the chat one by one. And in 10 short minutes, the 50,000 a mechanical engineered chair had already sold over 50 units. Expensive? Hell yes. But it was expensive to the point of being worth it, being happy, and being healthy. It was rare to be able to pay to be healthy, yet when it does come, there was only buy. Chapter 72. Visitors, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Translated by me, edited by Trapetro. Yi Qing just left the office of some advertising company. He wasn't there looking for marketing strategies, rather he was there to collect the bill. Right now, the rumors of a new super quick and super accurate rapid metal engraver with super beautiful results had been spread far and wide within advertisers in Zhongyan. 500,000 for one. If you wanted to buy it, then first was a down payment, then when it was ready to be shipped it needed to be paid off in full, otherwise you could forget about it. Conditions, delayed payments. Yi Qing's reply to them all was cash up front, otherwise FK off. Just like that, completely overbearing. Back in the day when the old factory was looking to ship products, the customers were literally like gods. And now, before Yi Qing's machine even arrived, the owner of the advertising agency was already downstairs anxiously waiting with a cash check in hand. Up until now, there were only a total of 26 engravers sold. Right now there was a bunch of stockpiled engravers. Within the factory warehouse, there were at least 20 of them sitting there. No one who had bought them deferred payments, because as long as you were in possession of these engravers, then you would be able to sweep through all your competitions like weeds. Engraved plates for products, advertisement decorations, metal art, industrial memorabilias, metal business cards, copper letter plates. For any metal carving order, as long as you were quicker, your products were better than everyone else's, and you still couldn't make an earning, then you should really go jump off a bridge. With others making a killing, naturally as the provider, Yi Qing was also making a killing. Not only did he make a big killing, Yi Qing's monster factory within the local rankings also rose from 903rd to 801st. Now that the monster factory had reached 801st within Zhongyan's industrial rankings, its industrial index also increased from its original 536 to 839. The increase in the index number meant 303 more glory points, as well as the ability to buy 3 more disguise uniforms. But to want to increase the industrial index and rankings, then there was only rapid expansion, and increased product sales. Only this way could those numbers actually increase rapidly. Money was a consumable, gone when used. The 303 industrial index increase mainly came from the marketing of the factory's products. When Yi Qing reached the parking lot, before he even got on the car, a series of order notifications came in, literally turning the cell phone into a police siren. Yi Qing stood in front of the van, completely bewildered. In total 60 mechanical engineer chair orders, and from all over the country at that. What the heck? Yi Qing was seriously doubting what he was seeing. This was for a 50,000 yuan chair. Those orders couldn't be fakes, so that only meant one thing, that Changyu person showed the chair around to his group of friends after receiving it, then had his friends see what was truly outrageous about the chairs. And this group of friends of his were all wealthy individuals, otherwise there was no way they would be willing to spend 50,000 for a single chair. Haha, there's really no need to worry about marketing with great products, because the buyers will do that themselves for free. Yi Qing thought to himself as he happily raced back towards the Dragon Creek beach. There were already 13 stockpiled chairs in the warehouse. Yi Qing decided to first mail them to the distant customers first, and rush in some more for the closer ones. Oh right, he also need to send Changyu 2 free chairs. There was definitely a need to repay the favor of having him do the advertising for the products and even dragging in several tens of orders. The level 3 monster factory could support up to 40 monster workers. Yi Qing, without any further thoughts, immediately filled in the remaining 15 slots with 5 peons and 10 master artisans, and had them begin helping out with the construction of the mechanical engineered chair. Right now there were 13 chairs ready to be delivered, it was just that the van was too small, and completely unable to fit all of them. Dragon Creek Beach was surrounded by barren wilderness, so there was no way that carriers would be willing to come and pick up the stuff. Yi Qing quickly gave his father a call, and had him send the freight truck over. At the same time, Yi Qing also made up his mind to purchase 2 more freight trucks. Going through all the hard work these days with selling curbstones and engravers, Yi Qing now had more than 8 million in the bank. Right, the construction plan for the metal smelting center could also move forward now, as Yi Qing decided to go on another industrial shopping trip. 2 freight trucks, the massive amounts of steel needed for building the metal smelting factory, then add on another car. Yes, Yi Qing had been daydreaming about buying a luxury car for a while now. Ever since his first time at the parking lot of Tianranju, where that young man cut him off and taunted with his Jaguar and pretty girlfriend, he had been looking to buy a luxury car. The chipped, dented, and beat-up old van had been with Yi Qing through the highs and the lows, and seen through all of Yi Qing's hardship and struggles. But as Yi Qing's net worth increased, its value would keep on dropping. Yi Qing had many fond memories with the van, so even if he did get a new luxury car, he still wouldn't abandon it. Worst comes to worst, might as well as send it for a complete makeover, with a whole new paint job and interior decor. Yi Qing felt that spending 2 to 3 million for a car was definitely no problem. He could basically earn all that back in just 2 days. Being good to his words, as soon as the driver from the old factory came to pick up the chairs, Yi Qing also followed out. Going out right now, Yi Qing could be at ease with leaving the monsters working in the workshop. The factory had already been surrounded by a high wall, locked the front gate, then left a monster wearing a disguise uniform outside to act as a gate watcher. If something did happen, it could simply tell the undisguised monsters to return back to the monster factory and everything would be good. With the peons there, Yi Qing was convinced that no one would try anything with the monsters. After having sent off the chairs and purchased all the steel, Yi Qing took a taxi directly to the car market, and bought 2 new Dongfeng 10-wheeler freight trucks. Letting Dad recommend some licensed drivers would be more than enough, as Yi Qing believed that his father could do a better job at that than himself. At 4 p.m. in the afternoon, Yi Qing called for a taxi to bring him to Construction Road. That was where all the Ferrari, Benz, Bentley, Aston Martin and other luxury cars stores were gathered. The first store he entered was a Benz 4S store. Yi Qing went in for a glance and was warmly received by a beautiful receptionist. Yi Qing asked for a brochure, took a seat on a sofa and slowly flipped through it. Many Benz car models looked very mature, then again they were usually for those successful business men and women. However, the thing with buying stuff was mainly with choices. While sipping on tea and flipping through the brochure, a very beautiful receptionist in a miniskirt was also on the side helping give introductions. Yet a sudden phone call stopped Yi Qing's car selection. Because that number was too special. That was the number that Yi Qing left with the master artisans to contact him when something happened at the factory while he wasn't there. "Boss, there's a car outside of the factory." The master artisan's voice was super calm. A very buff man came out of the car and is knocking on the gate. "What kind of car?" Yi Qing stood up and exited. Dragon Creek Beach was very remote, so the only reason someone would be at the factory would be to find him. Yi Qing thought that it might be Xia Muqing, but she had got his number, so if she saw the gate closed, then she would definitely call. Xiao Tu was the unbeatable overlord in the industrial sector, but on the social side, he was completely lacking and out of his elements. He wasn't able to tell what kind of car was waiting outside, but there was no problem in describing the appearance of it. "There's some kind of bird man with wings at the front of the car. It appears very blocky, and its front looks very much like a truck." The master artisans had super good eyesight, as they were even able to see the small details outside from just a small gap in the gate. A blocky sedan, with a truck-like grille, and a bird man with wings. "Isn't that a Rolls-Royce?" Yi Qing swearing endless holy shits inside, then that big muscle head that was knocking was definitely either a bodyguard or a driver. "Go ahead and welcome them, but don't lead them into the yard. Just say that the owner's not here so visitations aren't permitted because of industry secret problems. Just tell them that you've already contacted the boss, and he'll be there shortly." Having made what to do clear, Yi Qing apologized to the beautiful receptionist with the sudden situation and took his leave. Chapter 73. Definitely master level. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translated by me, edited by Trapetro. Yi Qing hurriedly called for a taxi to head back. A pure black Rolls-Royce Phantom quietly parked outside of Yi Qing's factory gate, and a master artisan was standing beside a suited man waiting. Just as the taxi stopped in front of the factory, the door to the back of the Rolls-Royce opened. A middle-aged man in a dark dress shirt, loose pants and reddish skin exited. The man wasn't tall by any standards, but was emitting a super confident atmosphere. When he actually exited the car, the non-stop complaining driver cum bodyguard immediately stopped talking, and politely went up. He was Li Huaxing, a leading figure in Zhongyin's manufacturing industry, a guest of honor in the municipality, and the current CEO and owner of Huaxing Heavy Industry. As long as one was in the manufacturing sector, then there was no one who wouldn't know of the name Li Huaxing. Li Huaxing was 50 this year, had a son and a daughter, and was the target of much jealousy for everyone in Zhongyin. It could be said that if any industry company could get a connection with Li Huaxing, then that was another layer of success and security. With that connection in place, even banks would view you highly. If you were even able to drag Li Huaxing over to be your guarantor, then every single bank would willingly and happily let you borrow outrageous amounts. If it was the mayor that wanted to have a deep discuss about economic and industrial questions with Li Huaxing, even he needs to have his secretary make a personal trip with the invitation. And sometimes, even with the secretary making the trip personally, he still wouldn't be able to invite him back. If the mayor was to find out that Li Huaxing personally made a trip to some secluded no-time small-time factory, and even waited 40-some minutes for a no-name somebody, then his face would definitely be shocked beyond belief. The one Li Huaxing was specifically waiting for, was naturally Yi Qing. Yet even when he had waited 40-some minutes, Li Huaxing still didn't feel any annoyance. Everything began from that signing event with Tiancheng Mining Corporation, where Tiancheng Mining Corporation signed for a massive order of equipment from Huaxing Heavy Industry. Included in it were 5 240-tonnage haul trucks. That was Huaxing Heavy Industries' largest haul truck product, those ground-level steel monsters. They had a height of nearly 6 meters and were 12.5 meters wide. 2,500 horsepower, the vehicle itself weighed in at nearly 40 tons, and a single wheel alone was 3 meters in height. Being able to produce large-scale mining haul trucks had pretty much become a standard for all large-scale industrial manufacturers. Moreover, Huaxing Heavy Industry could only produce 40 of them annually. Ednel.co. But those 40 trucks could also bring in a total net income of close to 1 billion, as those land monsters cost 23 million each. Back then the world-renowned Three Gorge project used similar imported haul trucks to completely dam off the Yangtze River. Now domestically, the country was also able to create those gas-guzzling industry monsters. Although it still had a long way to go when compared to those foreign brands. But their price was seriously cheap. The 240-tonnage haul truck was a new upgrade version created by Huaxing Heavy Industry from the 190-tonnage ones. A prototype had already been made, and it ran without a hitch. Like this, they happily let the word out, and even managed to get an order for 5 of them. Just when Huaxing Heavy Industry was enjoying the feeling and started production, suddenly devastating faults began to pop up left, right, and center. When problems popped up they must be fixed, otherwise the order would be severely delayed. If their new product actually became defective in the hands of their clients, then wasn't that just ruining their hard-earned reputation? But who was able to help with the problems from the 240-tonnage mineral haulers? There were only so many companies in the country who had the ability to create such beasts: Trinity, SEO Works, Xiang Electrical, Lu Gong. Asking those competitors, wouldn't that just be making them into a complete laughing stock? Li Huaxing was completely able to predict the outcome. Not only would they be of no help, but they would also heavily criticize and rebuke him for being too ambitious, too self-centered, too idiotic, and so on. Asking foreigners. Holy shit, those foreign assholes would just love it if the heavy industry in the country went kaboom, especially for the globally esteemed mining equipment provider, the Caterpillar Group. Originally, when the domestic heavy industry hadn't caught up yet, the Caterpillar Group made killings and had a stranglehold on heavy industry. Then each time a similar product was pushed onto the market, the Caterpillar Group's sales would plummet by a third. That was a third of international sales, especially for weak developing countries. Their heavy industry was completely filled to the brim with cheap made-in-China products. Asking them was completely out of the question. Li Huaxing even anxiously held 3 technical meetings in a row, yet all those skilled researchers ended up suffering from high blood pressure, and still weren't able to find a feasible solution. Under high anxiety, Li Huaxing suddenly remembered of a small-time mechanical factory at Dragon Creek Beach. Recalling the small-time factory at Dragon Creek Beach was completely due to a report submitted by his yacht pilot. Tiancheng Mining Corporation ordered 5 trucks in one go, and also a bunch of other related mining equipment, so naturally Li Huaxing was happy. When he heard that Tiancheng Mining Corporation's Jules Xia Muqing wanted to go sea fishing, Li Huaxing very willingly lent her his private yacht and pilot. This time, when going out to sea, Xia Muqing was completely out of luck. Right when the yacht pilot took her out for a spin, as soon as they neared the Dragon Creek Beach, the yacht's propellers both got wasted. When Li Huaxing heard the news, he didn't make a fuss about it. It was only a couple tens of thousand yuan, and it was his pilot that made the mess to begin with. So where was the need for Li Huaxing to make a fuss about it? But there was another small matter that piqued his interest. The pilot told him that he followed the GPS to a nearby shipyard, for repairs. But the shipyard closed a long time ago, and was now owned by someone who was using it as a mechanical manufacturing factory. If it was mechanical manufacturing, then in all of Zhongyan, who would compare to him Li Huaxing? But this mechanical manufacturing factory taught him a massive lesson with actual skills. The pilot told him that this factory's owner probably resented the yacht for taking so much space, plus he also knew Xia Muqing, so he immediately made 2 new aluminum alloy propellers and swapped them on. Wanting to lathe out a pair of 7-fan, high-curvature propeller in a short period of time, was definitely impossible for washing heavy industry. Of course, if washing heavy industry wanted to make it, then that was as simple as buying some manufacturing equipment. When Li Huaxing heard this, apart from admiration and curiosity, there wasn't much else. Who knew what kind of skills that factory was hiding? Maybe it even had some master-level worker overseeing everything. As for those amateur shipyard workers, what DMG CNC center, what precision was better than the original? Li Huaxing almost fell to the floor laughing. It wasn't that Huaxing heavy industry didn't have any DMG CNC centers. Whether or not it could mill out propellers, wouldn't Li Huaxing know the answer to that question? If it was the foreign full version, without any castration, then sure. But Li Huaxing felt the chance of that happening was just too damn small, the likelihood of it being handmade was even higher. After all, the first propeller-driven boat was completed in 1836, back then there was no such thing as CNC center, vertical computer-guided mills, it was all done by hand. The precision level of handmade products, especially when it was rushed, had no way of reaching the needed precision standards. Li Huaxing, as someone who chases after precision levels endlessly, immediately had someone order a pair of original propellers. Yesterday the propellers just arrived from their manufacturer. Li Huaxing took the returning yacht, immediately had it dry docked, and swapped out the propellers. The two workshop-level propeller were also brought back by someone. Because Li Huaxing felt interested, he wanted to see what kind of power that small-time factory had, that they could even create the two of them in less than half a day. As a result, when the two garbage-tier propellers were placed in front of him, Li Huaxing almost had the urge to trash the cup in his hand that was worth more than tens of thousands. Holy shit, what kind of workshop-level work was this? This is fking clearly world-grade work alright. Micrometer ruler, spiral micrometer, roundness measuring instrument, angle measuring instrument, and every other inspection technique were all used by Li Huaxing at least once. When the final result came out, it had Li Huaxing break out cursing those two propellers from the original manufacturer as garbage, as trash, as useless pieces of shit. He dejectedly had the workers once more install those two propellers back on, then Li Huaxing suddenly jumped out of his chair when a thought popped out. Hell yes! Weren't the difficult problems faced by Huaxing heavy industry in the mechanical processing area? They definitely had some special processing technique, and some beyond god-like master workers overseeing everything. The next day, Li Huaxing had his driver bring him to the small-time factory at Dragon Creek Beach, to pay the owner there a visit. Chapter 74. Master Artisan, I choose you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translated by me, edited by Trepetro. Li Huaxing, with 100% commitment, went to pay a visit, yet something hilarious happened. He was blocked outside of the gate. Yes, a super-slouched old man casually stated while picking his nose. Like I care who Li Huaxing is, the boss isn't here anyway, so wait there. The gate guard also stated without a care. Our factory's full of trade secrets, so what happens if you guys steal them? Li Huaxing's bodyguard was pissed to the point of nearly breaking. Let's not mention that this old man doesn't know of Li Huaxing, he even fking came up with such a lame excuse to block them out. What secrets could your small-time factory even have? If it wasn't because the old man gate guard seemed very uncivilized and retarded, the bodyguard would definitely use his industrial knowledge to teach the moron what trade secrets really meant. FK at our Huaxing heavy industry, even when the premier came to visit, all those large-scale precision equipment would all try to be turned off. Even if they were pressured into displaying something by the leaders, they would still try their best to prevent any cameras from going off. That is what trade secrets mean, alright. Yet this guy was watching the gate from inside the yard. Ah, forget it. The bodyguard doesn't want to spend any more effort dealing with the country bumpkin. The bodyguard was pretty pissed, but Li Huaxing was super happy. The gate guard old man not having heard of him was pretty normal, so naturally Li Huaxing wasn't going to spend his time arguing with a gate guard. But with his luxury car and bodyguard here, there was no way that the gate guard wouldn't understand that he was here to talk with his boss. Yet, he was still not letting him in. Then that only meant that this factory possessed many untold secrets. Furthermore, seeing the high surrounding walls, it was clearly meant to block the view, so Li Huaxing's naturally delighted. The bigger the secret, the happier Li Huaxing was, hence when Yi Qing arrived in the taxi 40-some minutes later, Li Huaxing wasn't unhappy at all. Taking a glance at Li Huaxing getting out of the car, Yi Qing immediately recognized who he was. With Li Huaxing's fame, which owner in the industrial yard didn't know him? Everyone put him as their role model and goal. The number of times he had been on TV was even more than the mayor. What's more, Huaxing Heavy Industry was right beside the old factory. He was Yi Qing's role model. As soon as he got out of the car, Yi Qing immediately went up and politely welcomed him. It was just that Yi Qing was very confused as to why Li Huaxing was here. "Welcome, welcome, welcome Mr. Li for coming to visit." Yi excitedly shook hands with him, and for the first time had an urge to take a selfie to show off. "Mr. Yi, you're so young." Li Huaxing politely greeted, and tried to retract his regular attitude. "When I was still your age, I was still fixing bicycles on the streets. Yet, Mr. Yi, you've already conquered such a piece of land, and even became another mature tree-like figure in the industry." Yi Qing only smiled at the praise because he wasn't clear why Li Huaxing came in the first place, so he didn't know how to respond. Li Huaxing's successful history was full of amazement at every turn. He said he fixed bicycles, but who knew if he used fixing bicycles as an excuse, and rather bought parts, assembled them, then sold them. Li Huaxing, having met countless people, naturally saw through Yi Qing's uncomfort at all the polite talk, so he got straight to the point, and told him exactly why he was here. "Mr. Yi, your factory is seriously full of surprises." Li Huaxing sighed, and invited him into the rolls Royce to talk. Seeing the gate still tightly shut, Li Huaxing extinguished his desire to enter and take a look. This way he could erase the suspense of coming here to steal trade secrets and take advantage of the luxury of refrigerated juice and fruits that comes with a Rolls Royce. Having experienced the Bentley last time, Yi Qing was no longer ohaying and ahaying, rather it further raised his desire to own a luxury car. "Mr.Ye, you're curious as to why I'm here, aren't you?" Li Huaxing personally retrieved 2 sealed cigars, cut them, handed one to Yi Qing, and sighed as he lit them. "Mr. Yi, you still remember the 2 propellers you made for Xiaomuqing? Those 2 propellers' quality and workmanship not only scared me, but also confirmed that there was a master mechanic working in your factory." Li Huaxing took a puff of the fragrant cigar, and the smoke was immediately cleared away by the circulation system. "Right now, my Huaxing Heavy Industry is facing some difficult technical challenges. These challenges comes from our new 240-ton haul trucks, primarily resulting from faulty structural design, but we can't pinpoint exactly where. I want to ask Mr. Yi to ask your master mechanic to help us surpass these difficulties." Li Huaxing with some hesitation looked at Yi Qing. "I'm pretty sure you're also very knowledgeable in the area of mechanical manufacturing. In our line of work, everything is linked together. As long as an experienced master takes a look, it'll be extremely easy for them to find where things went wrong." 240-tonnage mining haul trucks. Yi Qing was super envious when hearing this, as it was from head to toe a steel monster. When Yi Qing was still little, he watched Jackie Chan's Last of the Good Guys, where Jackie drove one of these steel monsters over the protagonist's mansion and trashed all the Porsches, Rolls Royces and whatnots, all with a single haul truck. From that time onward, those 4-wheel giant monsters left a deep impression on Yi Qing. That was the Caterpillar Group's product. The Caterpillar 797 series, a whole size bigger than what Li Huaxing was making right now. Now the question came. Right now, the problem Li Huaxing was facing, came from their newly developed product, and without fixing those problems, they had no way to produce those products. So should he go help by taking a look? Knowledge about mechanics. If the master artisans said they were second, then there were only aliens who could call themselves first. This wasn't designing a new product, rather as long as it was a problem within the mechanical sector, it would be a piece of cake for the master artisans. But it was just the same as when Yi Qing didn't want to sell techs. If the master artisans helped them fix the problems, then they would definitely pull ahead. Huaxing Heavy Industry was a leading manufacturer in Zhongyun, and was also one of Yi Qing's must-face enemies. However, helping him means increasing the lead he has on me. But the problems Li Huaxing's product was facing were only temporary, as there exists mining trucks that were larger than 240 tons. Others could make it, so Li Huaxing could also fix it, it was just the amount of time needed to solve the problems. Helping him didn't mean selling him brand new tech. From this transaction alone, not only could Yi Qing win a big fat check, he could also complete what every other manufacturer in Zhongyun wanted to do, become Li Huaxing's friend. This help was must a help. If these problems weren't fixed, then the advertising Li Huaxing did before was all just lies. Not only would it ruin his reputation, but also force him to pay a large contract breach fee. Right now, the thing that Li Huaxing was most lacking in was time. Helping him solve the problem naturally meant returns in many different forms. Having decided to help, Yi Qing simply responded right on the spot. Hearing that Yi Qing agreed to help, Li Huaxing just couldn't hold back anymore, just like Gong way back then, grabbed Yi Qing's hand, and used the most polite tone he could muster to ask if they could leave right away. No problem, let me talk to my workers first. Although Yi Qing had the confidence, he still gave Li Huaxing a flu shot. Mr. Li, if my master engineer can't find the source of the problem, then please don't blame them. How could I? How could I? You agreeing to help is already going far and beyond. Li Huaxing personally came out to open the door for Yi Qing. I'll sit in the front, you two can have the back. Xiao Tu. Getting out of the car, Yi Qing immediately yelled for the master artisan that was right there. What's up, boss? The temporary gate guard master artisan hurriedly ran over. Get a set of instruments from the workshop, then get in the car with me. Yi Qing pointed to Li Huaxing who was beside him. We're gonna go and take a look at what problem Mr. Li's factory is facing. Xiao Tu had nothing to do right now, plus he was wearing the disguise uniform, so naturally Yi Qing called him. All the master artisans were the same anyway, so it didn't matter who he called. Sure. Xiao Tu, without any resentment, immediately headed off to the workshop for the tools. The tools they used were all the rare kinds, which came with some 50% increased properties. The bodyguard who was currently opening the car door, and Li Huaxing who was about to get into the shotgun seat, were suddenly stunned. They stopped their movements and immediately solidified their expressions. That's right, they swear they didn't hear wrong. The person who was just watching the gate, will be looking at their mechanical problems. The gate watcher, he was seriously a gate watcher. Li Huaxing and his bodyguard could definitely confirm this, so why was he coming with them? When Master Artisan came back with the tools, and slipped into the back of the Rolls-Royce, the bodyguard's expression changed for the worst, even worse than having eaten a fly. Gnav Om he, for himself, as well as for Li Huaxing, questioned the Master Artisan. But this time everything was very awkward. Sir, do you even understand the mechanics behind a 240-ton mining truck? For those low-tech products, I can tell every single problem with just a glance. The Master Artisan confidently said, and to specifically piss off the bodyguard. Tell me, what lesson is there to learn from such low-tech products? Holy shit, if I can say it, then where's the need for me to be a driver? The bodyguard was almost pissed to the point of wanting to drag the Master Artisan into a corner and give him a thorough beating. Li Huaxing, who was beside him, visibly shook. But right now it was him asking for help, so he could only swallow his suspicions. When they got back to the factory and had the gate watcher see what world-level equipment was, and what heavy industry really meant, then Li Huaxing felt like he would be able to get his dignity and pride back. Chapter 75. Failure Everywhere. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translated by me, edited by Trapetro. Before, when the gate-watching mechanic barred him out, Li Huaxing paid him no heed. Now the symbolic machine, which had gone through the hard work of tens of thousands of people, and millions in funding, was called a low-tech piece of trash, and had nothing worth learning. How could Li Huaxing be happy at all? Hence, when they got back to Huaxing Heavy Industry, Li Huaxing decided that he was going to expand the old man's horizon, to get his lost face back. After exactly 27 minutes passed, the pure black Rolls-Royce stably drove through the gates of Huaxing Heavy Industry's second workyard. Huaxing Heavy Industry in total had 3 separate workyards, each of them taking up frightening amounts of land, and each yard had automation that tried to outdo the others. The first yard and second yard were right next to each other, there was just a scenic river in the middle. As for the third yard, it was right beside the old factory, still under construction. Having returned to his home factory, Li Huaxing felt as if he had gotten some face back, as he very pleasingly invited Yi Qing and the master artisan out of the car. The master artisan was still there casually being himself, but Yi Qing was already envious and shocked beyond words. Because Huaxing Heavy Industries area was serious too big, so when Yi Qing took a glance around, all he saw were machines and seas of steel. Massive steel workshops could be seen everywhere. Tall steel cranes filled every single pathway in the factory, and in the outdoors parking lot were parked rows upon rows of brand new industrial vehicles. The number of working industrial vehicles was beyond count. Furthermore, there were also some vehicles that were unidentifiable by Yi Qing that kept on buzzing past him from time to time, with huge parts in tow. Li Huaxing, pleased with himself, turned around and asked the master artisan how he felt about the factory. The master artisan didn't want to hit on his pride, so he simply didn't respond. However, it was quite clear from the looks in his eyes, that this factory was seriously too far behind in everything. Li Huaxing almost had a heart attack from his look. All those clients and inspection teams, which one of them wasn't shocked and awed? Yet the old man didn't even use one word to describe it. Li Huaxing was pissed beyond reason, straight up told his driver to get an electric golf cart, and headed off towards the mining hall truck production workshop. I really want to see what the old man can do. The gold cart stopped in front of a 20-meter tall, 800-meter wide, white steel structure. When they entered it, there were already 20.30 workers in blue uniforms and several engineers in gray uniforms waiting. Behind that group of people, were 7 240-ton mining haul trucks, each at a different stage of completion. Out of those mining haul trucks, the closest one to completion was at the very front, with a completed structure that was just missing some safety parts. The one at the very back only had the front of the truck structure completed, with its massive engine and generator still exposed. Standing in front of those giant monsters, Yi Qing could only sigh in marvel. BDODM, that was industrialization, one of the most important indexes used to estimate how powerful a country was. Naturally he was envious of all of this. However, Yi Qing can most definitely guarantee that in the not-so-distant future, his monster factory would also be able to produce these titanic monsters and at even better quality. Master Chiao, how do these workshops of mine appear in your eyes? Right now, the only thing that Li Huaxing wanted to hear, was a single praise from the master artisan. This workshop costed nearly 1 billion to build, is 150,000 square meters large, and is fully leveled with steel sand. Inside, everything is automated, all mechanical equipment is garnered with artificial intelligence, and even the welding is done through mechanical arms. Zero hand welding, zero hand work, zero human movements. Introducing up to there, Li Huaxing suddenly stopped as he just couldn't continue. Because although the master artisan was listening to all of that, it was quite clear how much he cared for the super high-tech workshop just from his lazy expression alone. Li Huaxing almost went berserk on the master artisan. If it wasn't for the astronomical amount of mechanical knowledge he possessed, Li Huaxing would have definitely had his driver drag the master artisan out for a beating that would only end with a praise. Yes, right now Li Huaxing just wanted the master artisan to praise him just goddamn once. Chairman, this is the master you've invited back. The leading engineer was someone who had clearly aged, wearing a pair of thick far-sighted glasses, and had a posture that was filled with knowledge. 20-some pairs of eyes gathered onto the master artisan and Yi Qing. Furthermore, those looks were all filled with doubt. Those engineers knew every nook and cranny of every part used in the mining trucks. They had researched for this long but were still unable to produce a result, so how could the old man be able to find it? The boss had definitely gone crazy, and randomly found someone who had knowledge in the mechanical sector, to come and save him. Yes, Master Wang, this is Master Chiao. Why don't you go ahead and get him caught up to speed on our problems right now? Li Huaxing seemed to be well respected by this engineer, as he didn't put on his CEO attitude at all. If Yi Qing's old professors were here, then they would definitely be able to identify the leading engineer, and would even very politely go up to him to ask how he was. The leading engineer was called Wang Caiqi, the previous mechanical engineering dean at the University of Zhongyan. In all of Zhongyan, he could definitely be ranked within the top 5 on mechanical knowledge. A long time ago when he was still a professor, he had published over 40 pieces of international writings and each of them had over 15 others referencing them. Now, not only was he the chief engineer for Huaxing Heavy Industry, he was also participating in more than 10 provincial-level industrial research projects. He was also the only person in all of Huaxing Heavy Industry that could talk back to Li Huaxing constantly and get away with it. Hi, Master Chiao. Wang Caiqi came up and shook hands with the master artisan, but his heart was filled with doubt. Well, since he was someone invited over by the boss, then might as well as explain everything to him and quickly get it over with. Having completed introductions, he led Yi Qing and the master artisan, right to the front of the almost completed mining haul truck. This is a nearly completed 240-ton mining haul truck. There's a total of 7 different trucks here, each at a different degree of completion, which can easily provide you with a view of the internal structure. The master artisan felt that those super outdated things had no learning value for him at all. In my eyes this thing is full of problems, so why don't you get to the point? The master artisan felt as if he was already polite enough. Asterisk cough cough asterisk, Yi Qing who was right beside him had a coughing fit, and the meaning of it was quite clear, shut it, let them have their face. Without the need to say another sentence, the workers and engineers had already gone on a riot, every single one of them was violent and pissed beyond belief. If looks could bite, then the master artisan would probably already be a pile of bones lying on the ground. What did you say, old man? A young worker rushed out from the back, with bloodshot eyes. Are you blind? Our Huaxing Heavy Industry has been in the industry for several decades, and is only now able to make these 240-tonnage trucks, yet you say they're full of problems. Come come come, the young man immediately ripped off his shirt and exposed the perfect pecs underneath. If you're not able to state a single reason, then don't think about leaving. Out. A flash of disdain flashed past Li Huaxing's face. The young man opened and closed his mouth several times, then without saying anything, went back to the group still pissed. The master artisan on the other hand felt very speechless, he felt that he was already holding back enough. Apart from the bodyguard, he hadn't spoken to anyone else. Yet why were this group of people still treating these pieces of garbage like priceless jewels? Yi Qing also became quite unhappy, since the master artisan was his worker. Having been pointed at and yelled at by someone else, then wasn't that just dropping his face? But since Li Huaxing had already made this worker back down, then Yi Qing couldn't really say anything about it either. The problem is in the power system. Chief Engineer Wang Caiqi unhappily said. Right now we already have 2 working prototypes, but for some unknown reason, the power system for the first one locked up right after traveling around 10 kilometers. We've also tried the second one, but it had the same result. It was only able to move around 10 kilometers before locking up. If we tried again after half an hour, it would move a little, but then die out completely. I can confirm that there are no problems with our design. This is the result of basing it off of the 190-ton trucks. Having reached the main point, Wang Saichi was somewhat ashamed. Both vehicles experiencing the same problems means the problems aren't random. We immediately stopped production, but having examined the mining haul truck from top to bottom multiple times, we still can't find the problem. It's definitely not a problem with the precision, each and every single one of our parts meet the industry standards. Follow-up inspections also prove this. So now here's the problem: no problem with the design, no problem with precision, yet it can only move for 10 some kilometers, and this is without a payload. Giggle asterisk, the master artisan couldn't hold it in anymore and laughed out loud. Yi Qing had already felt the death stares coming from those workers and engineers was. The master artisan, without saying a word, walked up right to the fourth mining truck. The truck already had its chassis and power engines installed, allowing the direct viewing of its complete power structure. Of course, the master artisan still needed to use the surrounding ladders to get up, otherwise he would still be stuck below the wheels. In his bag were a bunch of measuring instruments, but the master artisan didn't use them at all. With just one look, a look that was definitely less than 5 seconds, the master artisan had already turned his head around to look at the pissed crowd below. Well, since my boss told me to help out, then I'll point out every single mistake for you. The master artisan, just like someone teaching a kid, stated. These mining haul trucks. It's not that I'm targeting a specific point, but rather everything as a whole. Are all failures. Anyone got a sledgehammer? If you do, can you pass it over? Chapter 76. Yes, it's all trash. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translated by me, edited by Trapetro. A claw hammer was quickly handed over. If not for the leading engineer blocking him, then the worker with the claw hammer would have definitely smashed the master artisan off of the ladder. Everyone, including Li Huaxing, wanted to smash the master artisan down. But not just like that, right? Their beyond perfect, treasured product, actually had nothing that was worthy of praise. Get down here. The already rioting workers started to roar in rage. Get down, let's compete for who has the best precision. The expression of indifference, of being unmoving, disappeared from the master artisan's face. Replacing it was a haughty, piercing, eagle-like stare, and an expression that looked down on everything. Towards the raging workers, the master artisan spoke. A single sentence that bombarded those rioting workers into utter silence. The truck girders on the two sides of truck, with just one look, I can tell that they have a straightness error of more than 0.07 mm per meter. A 12-meter long girder, what do you think it distorted to? It freaking distorted into a goddamn lizard, alright. Now tell me, is that an up-to-grade product? Everyone's anger was completed, stuffed back into everyone's throats by a single sentence. Straightness error on the girder. The 12-meter long girder was a completely whole entity, and the bigger the component, the harder it was to machine. What the master artisan meant was that those two girders were completely distorted, not a single meter of it was straight. What the master artisan said wasn't wrong. The girder, made by using large milling machines, naturally had a certain degree of precision error. When the girder was welded onto the chassis, that also increased the precision error because of the high temperature created during welding. The error was clearly measurable by the workers, but it was also contained within a certain margin, so the workers felt that it wouldn't cause any negative impact to the vehicle. But how was the old man able to see it? Leading engineer Wang Saichi was completely embarrassed. Him understanding the error was one thing, but having it pointed out by someone else was something completely different. Although it doesn't feel like a problem, but the error was seriously too big. If this was any regular car, then it can already hit the junkyard. They wanted to know, but the master artisan didn't give them a chance to ask at all. Now let's take a look at your casing for the engine reducer housing. Is that really round? If I were to draw a random circle, it would still be more precise than that. This is just too much of a joke. Now look at the distance between the screw holes you guys made on the reducer, it's freaking huge. Why is it like that? To save money. Or to save time? The master artisan waved the claw hammer in his hands. I can guarantee that within a year, the reducer housing will start leaking oil. This is basically trash, a piece of garbage designed with zero experience. The reducer housing was made with foundry iron, it was just that the size of the piece was really big. Furthermore, the reducer gears inside couldn't come in contact with the housing case, hence its rough level of precision. As long as the precision of the hole connecting it and the position of the link to the engine crankshaft was controlled, plus the designed error margin from the very beginning, any of the remaining space would be left for the lubrication oil. If this was coming from the efficiency point of view, then leading engineer Wang Caichi felt no wrongs with the design. A mining haul truck was filled with different parts, due to time and profit margin reasons, simplifying the important steps as much as possible, was an untold method used by all factories. But a sentence from the master artisan suddenly made Wang Caichi realize that he made an overwhelmingly novice, and at the same time, a very classic doctrine error. He used the 190 tonnage reducer design on the 240 tonnage ones, that was perfectly fine. However, he actually used the original 48 screw sealed design on the 240 tonnage reducer without any changes at all. An increase in size meant an increase in the distance between the same number of screws. An increase in distance naturally meant a decrease in tightness. As time passed, the sealing chamber would experience severe abrasion, and create a very common problem with all made-in-China products, leaking oil. Everyone who was present was sweating cold bullets. Leading engineer Wang Caichi was completely pale, and pulled out his notepad from his jacket, and shudderingly recorded down the gargantuous error. When he hurriedly jotted down the error in a way that only he could understand, Wang Caichi fiercely wiped off some of his cold sweat and let out a long sigh of relief. Then turning around to take a look, he found that everyone actually pulled out either a notepad or their phone, and were all recording the fatal flaw down with lingering fears. It could be said that, if it wasn't the master artisan coming over as a consultant today, then they would only be able to find out about this tiny flaw years after the product had been delivered and in use by the client. When that time came, they would bombard customer service with inquiries, and only then could the engineers try to figure out the problem. But by then, their reputation would be tarnished, and they would be given the titles of unreliable, leaking, failed designs and so on. The more complex a product was, from designing to a final mature product, all steps required a series of improvements, and endless amounts of patches, before it could be perfected. As such, a single sentence from the master artisan directly had them skip over a major hurdle. Now look at your hydraulic lift, for lifts placed this close, are you guys looking to poke through the driver's cage? Now look at the turner, go get a ruler and measure its gap for me. Now look at the suspensions. The master artisan standing on top of the controls, without pausing or stopping, every words he said, right now in the ears of everyone below, all changed into the world's best set of sounds. Even those sentences that started with trash and ended with subpar, all became comforting. Right now, they had all changed from their previous disdain into unwavering admiration that would be unchanging even with 10 oxens pulling on it. Scribble scribble scribble, that was the sound of several engineers jotting down notes on their notepads. They had already forgotten about the meaning behind the words trash, sub.par, and the likes, as they recorded them down word by word. Li Huaxing, honestly, didn't escape the scolding either. Rather, he was standing beside an engineer, examining each recorded word, and preparing to make a copy of it for himself when this was all over. Isn't he a gate watcher? The thunderstruck bodyguard was completely flabbergasted, his brain right now was a mush that even Bill Gates wouldn't be able to sort through. Now look at the power system you've designed. I can only use garbage to describe it, the gear shifts direct current can clearly. Asterisk cough 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 asterisk. As soon as Yi Qing heard that the master artisan actually wanted to go through the truck's core systems, like the power transmission system, he immediately reminded him to tread the waters lightly. The master artisan's sudden quietness had everyone who had already prepared their ears for the incoming lesson immediately turn anxious. Master, please continue. The worker who previously thought of smashing the master artisan had already turned into someone who was even better than a too good student, as he actually recorded everything the master artisan said on video. Master, please continue, don't stop please. Leading engineer Wang Caichi right now was climbing up the worker ladder, to try to get closer to the master to receive his enlightenment. Master, please continue, what other flaws does this garbage product have? Please enlighten us. Yes, yes. Many of the workers below nodded furiously, their anger from before had disappeared before they knew it. What international joke was this? This respect-deserving old man was definitely a world-leading expert. What's more was that, it was very likely for him to have been in a top-level position at the Caterpillar Group. A single sentence from him could easily make up for decades of blind work. There's just too much trash to go through. The master artisan commented, then walked along the sidewalk-wide chassis, and arrived at the back of the super big of power transformer. A silvery white drive axle that was a meter thick, 8 meter long, bright as a mirror, appeared in front of the master artisan. The master artisan jumped onto the generator, and slammed the claw hammer straight onto that large drive axle. Dang, a very clear, melodious metal sound resonated in everyone's ears. No one attempted to speak, some even went as far as to stop breathing. Because the master artisan closed his eyes, and used his hands to help him listen to the resonating echoes. When the melodious echoes disappeared, the master artisan jumped to the other side and hit the drive axle again. This can also be called drive axle. This here has internal injuries, the problem's right there. The master artisan, with an expression full of resentment, stared at those waiting workers and engineers, and said, "Such a garbage drive axle, who was responsible for making it?" Including Li Huaxing, everyone's eyes turned to an engineer in a gray uniform. They had already been brainwashed by the master artisan to believe without question. With a claw hammer alone, he could tell of the existence of internal injuries in the drive axle. Who else could do such a godly feat, boss? Me. The not-so-old engineer with a flushed face stuttered on. The precision of the drive axle has no problem, I can guarantee. Every step made by the workers were all meticulously overseen and checked, the precision will not have any problem. Master Chiao. Leading engineer Wang Caichi right now couldn't help but pull on his silver white hair and be puzzled. If the precision of the axle isn't enough, then it should lock up and not be able to move at all. So then how come it's still able to move 10-some kilometers? You guys' requirement for precision is seriously despairingly low. The master artisan shook his head. But the problem isn't with the precision level, as it has reached the minimum requirement for being able to move. The material is too trash, the method used to make it is too garbage, rubbish tempering. The master artisan rubbed his hands on the axle. The DC current in the middle of the axle will produce residual heat during operation, thus leading to light heat expansion of the drive axle. You guys definitely didn't consider heat expansion parameters during designing, and highly overestimated the quality of this power transformer. Heat expansion parameters. Wang Caichi, as if having been struck by lightning, had his body tremble uncontrollably, even more so than those Xian Xia characters who just had a major breakthrough. Waking up with just one word. No wonder it operated fine when it started up, but got locked up after around 10 kilometers. When they got the haul truck back into the workshop to be taken apart and examined, the temperature of the drive axle would have dissipated a long time ago, so naturally there was no way for them to find out about it. When making the 190-tonnage trucks, all necessary parts were ordered from foreign makers, so of course this problem never popped up. The self-designed 240 tonnage truck still used the same materials as the 190 tonnage trucks, then the root of all their problems would naturally be the power transformer. As long as future designs included ways to expel the heat from the power transformer, then the lockup problem was easily fixed. So it was like this. Who would have thought? Large mining haul trucks all used their engines to help the power generator generate large amount of electricity to move the drive axle through the power transformer. The power transformer used for the 190 tonnage mining haul trucks must be different from the ones used on the 240 tonnage ones. Then all that was needed was to redesign the power transformer. But how to redesign it? Just as Wang Caichi prepared to bust his brains and pull out his hairs, he suddenly fiercely slapped his leg. In front of world-class masters, he was actually thinking of redesigning the power transformer by myself. Haha, it was just that this time the chairman will have to cough up a lot. Chapter 77. You'll definitely love it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translated by me, edited by Trapetro. Li Huaxing, who was right beside Yi Qing, kept on going back and forth between him and the master artisan. Right now he was seriously, emotionally happy. The last time he was this happy would have been back in 06, when he and the Nigerian government signed a 1 billion yuan machinery order. Mining trucks were complex machines made up of tens of thousands of different parts. There was not a single person in the world who could guarantee that the machines they made would be problem-free. Even supercomputers weren't without errors. The jet engines researched through the efforts of the entire country, even after going through multiple generations, still had many tiny problems. To create the design of a complex machine without any flaws or problems, was the dream of all mankind. Let's take the already mature industry of civilian cars for example. Just Toyota alone, at their highest, still had to make 24 recalls to fix major defects in their products. Due to major flaws, they had also stopped the sale of 8 different models of cars in the USA, as well as their production. Volkswagen, BMW, Ford, what car maker hasn't done a recall to fix fatal flaws in their products? When a design flaw appeared on a product, if the company wanted to maintain their reputation, then they must acknowledge the mistake and quickly fix it. Now, that old man on the ladder, who with just looks and feels, was actually able to see through multiple design flaws in the truck. Moreover, he was actually pointing out those technical mistakes for Li Huaxing. How high of an insight and industrial experience does this need? Exaggeratingly calling him a world-level mechanical master wasn't too much at all. Yet, this kind of genius really ran off to act as a gate watcher for some small no-name factory. Well, not really as a gate watcher, as that owner clearly said that he was also the one who made the propellers. That meant he was more like a technical consultant, usually sipping on tea, taking everything on leisurely, and from time to time, show off his shocking skills to the world. He was just like the caretaker monk from Demigods and Semi-Devils by Jin Yong. That was Li Huaxing's guess, but sadly he would never be able to guess that under Yi Qing, there were actually 17 of these masters, and their number would only increase. The key thing was, Yi Qing was actually in possession of dream-making blueprints that people would kill over. Li Huaxing endured the desire to continue guessing, and had a worker drive a truck over to see if the problem was actually with heat expansion. The 40-some-ton mining truck roared into the workshop. Li Huaxing, very sincerely, invited Yi Qing and the master artisan to visit some of his other workshops. Right now Li Huaxing didn't care about whether or not he could get praise from the master artisan, rather he only wanted him to use whatever words he wished to give out more pointers. Yi Qing naturally agreed, that was clearly a great opportunity for him to learn. Their first stop was Li Huaxing's secret workshop, responsible for making power shafts and bearings. If the mining truck workshop could be described as a representation of intelligence and technology, then the bearing workshop was from head to toe a steel foundry. An 1-meter-long high-carbon chromium bearing steel used a large-scale sawing machine to cut out the needed shape. Then, an enormous excavator rumbled through, used its front claws to raise the piece of 1-ton steel, and dumped it into the gas-powered heating furnace to enjoy a baking under 1,000-degree flames. When it was heated bright red, it was then delivered under a 1,000,000-ton hydraulic press, to be pressed into a giant piece of steel disc with the huge pressure from above. Following the ear-splitting squeezing sound, was the drilling for the oblate piece of bearing steel. First was the appearance of a circular hole with a water jet cutter, then using a large ring rolling machine to, while heating, expand the diameter of the hole. Those were the steps needed to create super-large bearings. On the other side was a 6,000-ton free forge press, using its Optimus Prime palm-like clamp to slowly shape, with shockingly large power, a bright red steel beam into a steel cylinder. That was the most important step in creating power shafts. The drive axle that the master artisan said to have internal injuries was turned into a cylinder just like that, then precisely processed. The master artisan was completely bored out of his mind, but Yi Qing was completely entranced by all of this. The metal forging center that he was planning to build, was a complete combination of every piece of equipment right in front of him. From metal smelting to shape making, it was all combined into one. When that time came, Yi Qing would genuinely be in possession of technical abilities to compete with all other large heavy industry groups. The workshop was hot like a furnace, but Yi Qing's heart was even hotter. However, Li Huaxing felt somewhat disappointed. The master artisan probably realized that he said too much before, so now he was only wagging his mouth around, but not saying anything at all. Having visited many core manufacturing workshops, this mechanical master, apart from disdain, only had more disdain. But the small-time owner on the other hand was quite interested in these things. At the same time, Li Huaxing had seen through much of the underlying meanings. This would follow Yi Qing's words to the letter. A look from Yi Qing would immediately change the master from a rampaging tiger into an obedient rabbit, and then some. And right at that time, a worker ran over to congratulatory inform Li Huaxing that, under the inspection of many engineers, the problem had been confirmed to be with the heat expansion inside of the drive axle. The heat expulsion design for the DC motors of the back wheels did not pass standards at all. Yet the transformer was also built right on top of the power shaft, so they had removed the shaft and the casing for the transformer before finding the problem. Li Huaxing waved his hand for the worker to get back to work, then secretly guided Yi Qing and the master artisan into a magnificently decorated office. That young man had seriously gotten the luck of his life by being able to hire such a master. Ever since the master artisan stood on top of the mining truck, and scolded the workers and engineers for being completely useless pigs, Li Huaxing had already figured that he had found a hidden jewel. If it wasn't because of his full obedience to Yi Qing, Li Huaxing would have extended out his olive branch a long time ago. Now the question was that Li Huaxing didn't know the situation between the two, and was also afraid of losing face if he offered an opportunity but got rejected. What's more was that the master's attitude was seriously poor. If he really did come over, then very shortly, Li Huaxing would definitely have headaches in dealing with worker relations. That being the case, with this cooperation being a success, if there were more problems in the future, then he could always invite them over again. The master's obedience to Yi Qing. Thinking up to there, Li Huaxing had already decided to keep a close-knit relationship with Yi Qing. Mr. Yi, I really can't help but congratulate you for being able to hire such a talented master. Li Huaxing went behind this magnificent, scented wooden desk, pulled out a drawer of tea, and had his secretary pour a cup for the guests. Oh right, before at the factory, I saw that you took a taxi back. Having solved his recent massive headaches, Li Huaxing was truly relaxed now. Mr. Yi, you haven't bought a car yet. I was just at the 4S stores on Construction Road when you called. Yi Qing replied with some embarrassment, because Li Huaxing would be gifting him a lot of money soon. Car shopping. Now Li Huaxing was interested. If I recall correctly, all the 4S shops on Construction Road are luxury brands, so it would seem you're really well off, Mr. Yi. What car were you looking to buy? I'm not too informed here, probably one around the 2 to 3 million range. I'll probably get another one once I've earned more. The more expensive the car, the longer it'll take to be delivered. That Rolls-Royce of mine from ordering to being delivered used nearly 4 months. So no need to buy one. Li Huaxing looked at Yi Qing. I'll gift you one. I've ordered a new ride a couple of months back, which just arrived this morning and is going through customs right now. Now that it's yours, you'll definitely like it. Chapter 78. Aston Martin Lagonda. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translated by me, edited by Trapetro. Yi Qing still hadn't recovered yet. Was Li Huaxing seriously gifting him a car? Hearing his words, he bought the car as a replacement for his current one. What was Li Huaxing's ride right now? It was a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a luxury car that took the client's need into account before being built to order. To be perfectly honest, Rolls-Royce Phantom had a great reputation, but its looks really couldn't be said to be good. It freaking looked like a truck. Now Li Huaxing's new car, after several months of waiting, belonged to Yi Qing before it even passed customs. Yi Qing really hadn't recovered from the shock. For someone as successful as Li Huaxing, when they decide to switch rides, then it definitely needed to be either the same tier or better than the Rolls-Royce Phantom, definitely not something worse. This kind of 8 million plus luxury cars, if it was before, then there was zero chance for Yi Qing to own or even touch one. Now someone was gifting him a brand new one, that just arrived. The better the car, the longer the delivery wait. The car had been already in the wait process for several months, so naturally it couldn't be too bad. While Yi Qing was daydreaming about the new car, Li Huaxing's secretary had already come back with steaming cups of high-quality tea, at the same time told Yi Qing that his new car had already passed customs, and was now on its way. Delighted, but Yi Qing would definitely not forget about his etiquette. Helping Li Huaxing with these major problems, and even pointing out other major design flaws. Although he should receive high compensation for it, but no matter how big the compensation was, Yi Qing still couldn't believe that it was this much. This was a kind of investment. The next time Li Huaxing encounters some hard-to-solve mechanical problem, he would definitely hand it over, and what's more, he definitely couldn't continue to ask for compensation. Even if Li Huaxing wanted to pay, Yi Qing also wouldn't accept it. The thing with friends was, they'll be there when you're troubled, so naturally you also couldn't stand by and watch when they need your help. Li Huaxing was a leading figure in Zhongyun's industrial sector. His connections weren't limited to those only within the metropolitan of Zhongyun. Many difficult problems in Yi Qing's eyes could easily be settled with a phone call from him. Chairman Li, if you have any technical problems in the future, just give me a call. Yi Qing felt that as long as it was not selling the black techs from the monster factory, then it was fine to help everyone else out. The heavy industry products from China, when compared to those established foreign companies, still had a long way to go. Without the backing of any black techs, it would be really difficult for them to compete with the monster factory, especially later on. Definitely. Mr. Yi, if you ever encounter any problems in the future, feel free to find me. Li Huaxing, completely elated, stood up and firmly shook Yi Qing's hand. Then Li Huaxing walked to in front of the master artisan, and extended his hand for a shake. The master artisan, with the worst possible set of etiquettes, drank his cup boiling hot tea in one gulp, spotted out the leaves, and extended his hand. After having extended his hand, the master artisan, probably disliking the taste of tea, asked for cold water when the secretary went in to refill it. But Li Huaxing was completely stunned, not knowing if it was because of the wasted high-quality tea, or was it because of the master artisan's no-fear attitude towards boiling things. The ones who were considered to be unbeatable in a particular field, all had some kind of strange problem. The master artisan wasting good tea, in Li Huaxing's eyes, matched him really well. 5 p.m., a burst of engine roar and brake screeches from a heavy-duty truck came into the office from outside. Li Huaxing opened the window, looked out, and waved to Yi Qing. Brother Yi, your new car's here. I guarantee that you'll love it. Yi Qing also took a look out the window. On top of the flatbed trailer was the silhouette of a super sleek sedan with a silvery gray dust covering. From its outer appearance, the car appeared to be longer than the Benz S-Class, but it didn't have the roughness of a Rolls-Royce. When Yi Qing and Li Huaxing arrived downstairs, the silver-gray covering had already been removed, and at the back of the car, someone was already lowering the ramp. A completely silvery white, beautifully hand-crafted sedan appeared in front of Yi Qing. High-angled headlights, and hexagon-shaped grilles, had Yi Qing tell what kind of car it was. Aston Martin, a sports car manufacturer turned luxury car maker. This is Aston Martin, Lagonda. Li Huaxing laughingly introduced. This car's price is even more steep than my Rolls-Royce Phantom. Same four-door sedan, but on a completely different spectrum than the Phantom, one's for sitting, while the other's for driving. Having gotten used to the comfort of the Rolls-Royce, I got it to satisfy my need for speed, and to relive my long-lost youth. Now she is yours. She's very low-key, but only when you step on the gas will you truly feel her hidden powers. The client manager who personally delivered the car, backed the silvery white Aston Martin Lagonda down the ramp very carefully, and when it was off, he handed the keys as well as the paperwork for the car to Yi Qing. The car key was as big as an ordinary plastic lighter, with an inlay of the silver Aston logo. When Yi Qing was signing the rest of the paperwork, he stole a glance at the receipt and saw an outrageous price of 8.3 million yuan. Yi Qing originally planned on getting a 2 to 3 million luxury car, but alright then, a 8 million plus yuan car appeared right in front of him. Having finished signing, the client manager, very professionally, explained to Yi Qing the car's performance and all the different features available on the car. The 8-cylinder dual overhead camshaft engine, with just a slight gear shift, could easily outrun many race cars. Well, the Lagonda series was known for its race cars for the past 100 years. However, her outer appearance was seriously low-key. Without the slightest hint of being a super race car, if someone without any knowledge of cars were to see it, then they would most likely think of it as a new Ford Mondeo. 6 p.m., Yi Qing said goodbye to Li Huaxing, then drove the Lagonda as carefully as a nuclear missile launcher out of the gates of Huaxing Heavy Industry. Having exited the factory's gate, when the car entered the developing regions of the industrial park, Yi Qing very gently stopped the car beside the road. Then, unable to contain his inner excitement at all, he sat on the driver's seat and laughed out loud. Holy shit, in the whole province, who else could compare to him? Helping someone out with some technical difficulties for only one afternoon, and get paid over 8 million for it. Who else was there? If the master artisan didn't look so much like Gollum from The Lord of the Rings, then Yi Qing would definitely kiss him right now. Haha, Yi Qing exhilaratingly fondled the wheel. The feel of driving the super luxury car that was worthy of the 8 million plus price tag really couldn't be described in words. This was simply an indescribable feel to driving. Just a single light press of the gas pedal would let the monster inside of the Lagonda loose, and roar off forward. Then there was the rest of the car's features. Originally when Yi Qing saw people drive Benzes, when they left the car, with just a brush of the hand on the handle, the door would lock itself. And the Lagonda. Just dangle the keys when you get out, and it would lock itself. As for unlocking, as long as the keys are nearby, you could immediately open the door. They were called car keys, but it no longer served the same purpose as regular car keys, rather it was a highly technical remote control. The car casing was made of pure carbon fiber. Inside was covered in hand-tanned deer leather, and some kind of super slow-growing birch wood. On the footboard surrounding the four doors was the engraved name of the car's designer and the place where she was handcrafted. On the floor was wool carpet, and the chairs were adjustable ergonomic chairs with electric heating. It could be said that this Lagonda could become a conversation starter with just one look of the interior. Sadly, the master artisan was sitting there on the shotgun seat with zero emotion. It was almost as if he was sitting in a tractor instead. On the other hand, Yi Qing was just like he had received his most favorite toy during Christmas, as he continuously played around with every single button and switch in the car. Finally, Yi Qing was unable to contain himself. Looking into the rearview mirror, he tidied up his jacket, brushed his hair, then pulled out his phone, exposed his watch, and began to take a series of selfies. Having finished inside, Yi Qing again exited the car, carefully laid down on the front of the car and took a couple more. Finally selecting one where he blocked the logo of the car, and sent it to all his friends. Title: Bought a new Ford Mondeo. Ford had the Mondeo, which pretty much copied the front of Aston Martin's classics. Now Yi Qing deliberately blocked the car logo, and couldn't help but show off to his friends. Of course, if anyone who actually knew anything saw it, then they definitely would recognize that she was actually not a Mondeo. Not 2 minutes had passed after uploading the pictures, while Yi Qing was still enjoying the new leather smell of the car, that his phone rang. Yi Qing glanced at the number. It had no name, but somehow it felt very familiar. Hello. Is this Big Brother Yi? A super sweet voice came over the speaker. I'm Bai Dower, Big Brother Yi, are you free tonight? I want to invite you to dinner. Dowdu. Chapter 79. I'm going to be a broadcaster. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translated by me, edited by Trapetro. Today was the day Dowdu got paid. This month's wages was much more than all of her other paychecks combined. Although she had only been in the streaming community for so long, due to Yi Qing's historical donation amounts, it brought her tons of new viewers, and with that came even more donations. Dowdu never wanted the paycheck, hence when she got paid, she headed to a nearby Hermes store, and bought an already scouted male business bag. As for the rest of the money, it was left for the next time with a much more expensive gift. Inviting me for dinner. Yi Qing had nothing planned tonight, but her asking him out was definitely to thank him for his massive support. Dowdu's voice suddenly became very quiet. She felt that she was too offensive, as someone like Yi Qing definitely already had plans. So, where then? Having no plans for the night, Yi Qing naturally wouldn't reject a free meal on a platter delivered to him. Are you okay with the clear moon floor on Lake Lushan Road? The fish there's really good. Sure. Yi Qing took a look at the time. I'll be there in half an hour. Having agreed on a time, Yi Qing first wronged the master artisan by having him return to the monster factory. Then headed to the gas station near the park. He used to get all the gas for the van there. At least they didn't try to cheat you on the quality of the gas. The development area of the park was super spacious, 6 lanes on either side. But Yi Qing only lowered the windows to feel the comfort of the wind. Even when a couple Audi and Honda overtook him, Yi Qing was still going at his own pace. A sudden burst of engine revving roared in from behind, a black Porsche Cayenne. The driver was definitely someone who knew his stuff, coming right up to the Lagonda, then using the same speed to non-stop rev the engine to continually taunt him. The meaning was quite clear. Let's have a race. But Yi Qing drove the car at his own pace, completely ignoring the other car. Having driven the Lagonda into the gas station, then following his memory, parked next to the 98 pump. Opening the gas tank covering, Yi Qing asked the nearby lady. Miss, full tank. The lady had her hands on the gas gun, yet didn't move at all, and even strangely stared at Yi Qing. This Mondeo of yours can handle at most 95, you sure you want 98? Yi Qing's originally pleased attitude was almost completely shredded into pieces by this dimwit of a miss. Miss, this is an Aston Martin. Ah. This missy's face immediately turned red, and non-stoppingly apologized to Yi Qing, saying she was able to tell from the logo of the car at all, no wonder it appears so much more upscale than the Mondeo, and its engine sounds so much like a Ferrari. No problem, no problem. The front end of a Mondeo really does look the same. Yi Qing happily handed over a couple $100 bills to her. When Yi Qing arrived at the clear moon floor, he specifically looked for the innermost parking spot. This was a carbon fiber casing all right. A random dent and it needed to be completely replaced, it wasn't even possible to fill it in or use other normal methods to fix. The clear moon floor was right on the edge of Lake Lushan, well known for its scenery and the Yangtze Threes. Of course, Yi Qing hadn't been here before. When Yi Qing entered the lobby of the clear moon floor, what appeared in his eyes were the rows of taken seats next to the lake. What's more was that every table was filled with a pair of boy and girl. Just when he was going to call Daodu, he accidentally found a standing girl, quite similar to Daodu, that was having a fight with a sitting male. Seeing this, Yi Qing doubtedly walked over. How can you be like this? I was clearly here first, all I did was go to the bathroom for a second, yet you still steal my seat. Daodu today wore a knee-long blue dress, with a double-strapped leather bag, and attracted the stealthy attention of many males in the restaurant. While Yi Qing was walking towards them full of confidence, Daodu somewhat excitingly waved at him. What's going on? Yi Qing checked out the seated pair, clearly young, but the male was definitely not someone kind and courteous. He took our spot. Daodu complained. This restaurant is always packed, and doesn't even allow for bookings on the first floor. I came over early to reserve a spot for us, and had the waiters look over it for me when I went to the bathroom. Yet when I came back, the waiters disappeared and the seat was taken by these assholes. Seeing me little Fei here, the waiters naturally can only be turtles. The sitting male laughed. Stop wasting your efforts, we're not gonna move, so go find another table. Yi Qing took a quick look around and actually found several waiters and waitresses hiding themselves, not even daring to look their way. Yi Qing, not paying them any mind, said to Daodu. Forget it. Why don't we go find another place to eat? When I came here, I found a seafood barbecue place with a patio, and it's also pretty packed. Sure. Daodu had nothing against it, it was just that this male here ruined her entire mood. Lake Lushan was situated in a great spot, not too far from Cai Street, and preserved many ancient buildings by the lake side, and was also one of Zhongyan's scenic spots. Being able to open and keep open a barbecue place with an open patio, definitely meant that there was good food. Finding a clean spot to sit on the patio, Yi Qing jokingly asked Daodu why she wasn't streaming tonight. Daodu was very nervous and somewhat ill at ease, moreover Yi Qing held too high of a spot in her heart. Normally it's only 3 times a week, but now that it's summer break I can squeeze some extra time into it. How can I stream today when I invited you out? If I actually did, the viewers would completely ruin everything. Daodu made a silly face, pulled out a brown-red gift case and gave it to Yi Qing. Thank you Big Brother Yi for your donations. Now, as soon as I turn on the stream, there's always a million people watching. The case had a small person holding onto a carriage. Under the deal lighting, Yi Qing wasn't able to make clear of the English letters underneath. Inside the case was a simple black leather bag, squarely shaped, very suitable to be a man's business bag. On top of the leather was 2 H rings, which Yi Qing was easily able to recognize. Wasn't this the logo for Hermes? Last time when he was suit shopping, Yi Qing didn't dare to buy Hermes products due to their price, but who would have thought that Daodu would gift him a Hermes's leather bag? The last time he received a gift from a girl, was a business card from his next seat neighbor during elementary school graduation. Such a beautiful gift, but it's too much. Yi Qing closed the case, and happily accepted it. Last time all the donations were all purely to thank Daodu, by that logic he shouldn't be accepting this at all. But now that Daodu had already bought it, if rejected, then she can't even use it. Moreover, there was a no-return policy in place for Hermes's products, at most it would only be a switch. Just when Yi Qing was going to confess the truth to her, Daodu seeing Yi Qing accept the gift embarrassingly said. Big Brother Yi, you really didn't have to be like this. It's an honor to be your friend. Daodu didn't have the courage to finish the rest of the sentence. But Yi Qing had already guessed what she wanted to say. When he was donating, he clearly saw all the viewers rioting with how skilled he was at chasing after girls, even able to move the men. Very clearly, Dowdu has misunderstood him. It's better to not say it, otherwise Dowdu would completely lose all her face. Yi Qing quickly remembered his little nephew mentioning that Dowdu went to Zhongyin's University of Broadcasting and Television, so he swiftly avoided this awkward topic and asked her what grade she was in, what was her specialty, and the likes. I'll be in my 4th year in September, and studying news and broadcasting. Hearing a switch of topic, Dowdu was super happy. I was very fortunate. Last month Zhongyin Broadcasting Station came looking to hire 4th years. I was specifically named for a company op position. They said that they saw my gourmet show online, and found my great talent in broadcasting. When we've reached 4th year, we've pretty much learned everything that was needed. The main goal now is to earn more experience. Next week I'll be starting my company op position at Zhongyin Broadcasting Station first with being the broadcaster of the radio show, News by Your Ears. Chapter 80. Oh man, that timing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 80. Oh man, that timing. Translated by me, edited by Insert Trapetro. Dowdu straightened her waist and cleared her throat. Good afternoon everyone, it's 1 p.m. Beijing time. I'm your host Dowdu, and you're listening to News by Your Ears, on MF 106.9. Today Dowdu will tell you all about some very interesting pieces of news. Today at 9 in the morning, something that had even the police perplexed happened on Nanhua Road. And then, Dowdu's voice was just too perfect. It gave Yi Qing the feeling that he was listening to the national broadcasting station while driving. But what was this news that had even the police perplexed? Big brother Yi, I don't know what it is either. Dowdu apologetically smiled. I just made all of that up. And I'm out of ideas already. Yi Qing laughed with her, praised her for being absolutely amazing, and that she had the potential to become a show host for the national broadcasting station. Dowdu blushed bright red. The praise was simply too much. A topic here, a topic there, as they were both millennials, naturally they had a lot of topics to talk about. When all the seafood barbecue arrived, Dowdu asked whether or not Yi Qing wanted to drink. She even commented that she specifically didn't bring her scooter tonight because she was looking to drink a couple beers with him. Yi Qing so much wanted to say yes, then just like those dropouts, get her drunk, then. Dowdu said it in good faith, without hinting for anything in that direction. Yi Qing could guarantee that he would just be wasting his efforts if he drank, so thinking through everything, he decided not to drink and declined with I didn't bring a driver with me. Recently due to the Clean and Clear initiative in Zhongyin, DUIs was under even stricter scrutiny. On the other side of the street there just happened to be a fresh juice bar, with what appeared to be some high-tech juicers. Many tourists went there for a drink, and Yi Qing had the waiter grab 2 pitchers of watermelon juice from there. 7:40 in the evening, the two finished a rather large platter of seafood and were ready to leave. Not drinking also had its benefits, at least he was able to give Dowdu a ride home. In front of Yi Qing, Dowdu was very ill at ease. The impression Yi Qing gave her was just too deep. It was just like those male presidents in Korean drama. Plus, with Yi Qing's relaxed attitude, Dowdu also didn't want to reject Yi Qing's suggestions. For example, escorting her home. When the two were taking a stroll to get back to the car, a group of tourists climbed over the parking lot fence, just like having discovered a new continent, excitingly surrounded a silvery white Aston Martin Lagonda, and began to take pictures as if it were a red carpet event. When they got close, they were able to hear bits and pieces of the conversation. I heard these are made completely out of carbon fiber. I've never even felt a carbon fiber race car. This car costs over 8 million, you even need to wait months for it. Normal people, even with money, don't have the buying power. Sisters, help me get a pic, I need the whole car in it. He, this time my friends are gonna be shell-shocked. Holy shit, a Lagonda. Last year at the annual National Car Show, the 100-plus-year-old Aston Martin brand also showed up, and there definitely isn't more than 5 of them in the whole country. If I can sit inside and get a couple pictures, I'm even willing to sleep with this car's owner. I'll willingly marry him. Keep dreaming. The group of girls was beyond excited, their eyes were as if they were glued onto the car, which naturally meant they were ignorant of their surroundings. Yi Qing, who was getting ever closer, coughed a couple of times to warn those girls of approachers. The girls were first shocked, they then blushed, and screamingly ran off. As with the general jealous nature of women, when the girls were running off, they just like a radar scanned Dowdu from head to toe. Those piercing and glaring eyes, and those explicit words from before, immediately turned Dowdu into a big red apple. When Yi Qing helped open her door, Dowdu only dared to look at her feet. The painful blushing from her face had already crawled into her legs and onto those snow-white backs of her feet. She recognized the Aston Martin logo. She also heard about the 8 million plus price tag. If I can sit inside and get a couple pictures, I'm even willing to sleep with this car's owner. I'll willingly marry him. Keep dreaming. Those words, she also heard word by word. Right now, Dowdu was wondering whether or not she had been teleported into a Korean drama. Wait, no, those male presidents in the Korean dramas were all super cute, but the cars they drove were either BMWs or some 100,000 Hyundai. Also, for Benz-like cars, those were all for the fathers of those male presidents. The first time they met, Yi Qing was on foot. The second time he was with a Bentley Mushin, and the professional driver made everything over the top. Although she didn't know much about cars, the viewers from her stream did, and that 6 million yuan Bentley Mushin had already made its rounds. But now, an Aston Martin Lagonda, scarce even in the whole world, priced at over 8 million yuan. The giant difference in social standings had Dowdu seriously wonder if she could really be friends with Big Brother Yi. Come on already. Yi Qing lightly patted the door. Ah. Oh, Dowdu gathered her courage, took a couple of steps, then seeing the soft wool carpet inside, lost all her courage again. A burst of wild laughter came from the other side of the fence. Under the lighting of the street lamps, the male who had previously stolen Dowdu's table walked over with a hand on his girlfriend's waist, and the other spinning the car keys right round, right round. Accompanying the windmill-like keys, was his high-pitched voice, saying how yesterday he went to collect bills from an internet cafe, the owner of the cafe called a bunch of people over, but still paid up. Crossing over the fence, pressing his keys, the second car to the left of the Lagonda, a Volkswagen Skoda beeped. Then, his smile solidified. Because he saw the seriousness within Yi Qing's eyes. The face of the man named Xiao Fei was filled with shock as he just stood there like a block of wood. Of course he remembered Yi Qing and Dowdu, as only an hour has passed. But no matter if it was Yi Qing or Dowdu, they both easily left deep impressions on people. 2 doors open on either side of the car, made the Aston Martin look like a laid-down monster. Sweat beads could be seen forming on Xiao Fei's forehead. The front of an Aston Martin was just simply too iconic, almost no men would not recognize it. Xiao Fei owns a car himself, but any men who was looking to own would go in search of cars sold in the country, sort it from the most expensive at the top and slowly flip through them. Although they couldn't buy many of them, but at least they could daydream about it. Aston Martin's Lagonda series was one of the most popular car in last year's Shanghai Auto Show. It even made the front page of many media outlets now. There, a Lagonda that he couldn't even dream about, was right in front of him. Xiao Fei right now didn't dare to leave like this, he couldn't imagine what kind of background the owner of this car had. But he could easily tell that, after unlocking his car just moments ago, he had already exposed himself. No matter how quick he was, or how shameless he was, this young man who he hadn't met before, could easily record his license plate, then make a call, and he would immediately sink into unforeseen dangers. Before, when he gave no shits, that was because of the giant difference in statures. But that still doesn't mean that this young man here would like it when someone steals his table, especially when it was originally held by his date. Now that he's meet him again, if his attitude wasn't able to satisfy him, then Xiao Fei really couldn't imagine what would happen in the future. Bro, I'm really sorry, for being a blind retard. Sweat drops poured from Xiao Fei's forehead, and his legs started to turn into jello. Please, your benevolence, please don't care about what this idiot has done. I'm wrong, brother, I beg of you to forgive me. Xiao Fei, not caring about his girlfriend's looks of having met a complete buffoon, crawled over the fence, bowed and continuously begged for forgiveness. But Yi Qing's silence had Xiao Fei trembling completely. He regret not being able to kill himself. Why was I so retarded as to press those car keys? Xiao Fei, with a pale expression, continued to beg, to the point where even his throat was blistering and cracking.